Welcome back to the Beer Brackets Pub, everybody. This is a big one. People have, I start every episode with that. This is a big one. But people have been requesting this beer for years. Everybody in the comments, you got to review Coors Banquet. There's only a bootleg version of it available in Canada where I am called Coors Original. It's not Coors Banquet. It's brewed. I think it's supposed to be like an imitation Coors Banquet. It's available in grocery stores here. You can find it around. It's brewed in Canada. It's not brewed using the Rocky Mountain water. It's not the same beer at all, but it's kind of packaged similarly, but it's different. On a recent trip down to the States, Alessandro was kind enough to get me these. What would you even call this? Is this a can bottle?
It's an aluminum bottle.
You guys love your aluminum bottles down there. I've never seen this contraption, this beer contraption in Canada. It doesn't exist. I have a question for you just before we even get into this, and I'll see if you have an answer. What's the advantage to doing an aluminum bottle and not just doing a can?
Well, compared to that's a good question, my friend. My guess is that there might be some mystique behind it, and we'll see that when we get into the lore of Coors. There's actually a lot of mystique in this beer, so I think that might be part of the reason why they chose this format, my friend.
This beer has a very, very interesting history. As you see on the front of the can bottle there, brewed with 100% Rocky Mountain water since 1873. I love that. When you get this information about a beer and you know that the water used to make the beer is coming from a really special, unique place, it takes that beer to a whole other level.
It does. There's just like an extra layer of mystery, and it just so connects you to the place.
An extra layer of beer intrigue.
It does.
Get us started here because you did some beer research.
I did some beer research, my friend. I dug deep into the.
I love it when you do beer research.
The halls, the libraries, and trying to find.
Enjoy this. You signed up for a library card. You did your digging.
Beer library card, my friend. It's a special type of card that you need. You ask for the card, and the first thing they give you is a pint.
Where was that library when I was in university?
Yes,
man,
that's a good question.
That would have been amazing. All right, so what did you discover when digging deep in these beer libraries?
Quite a few things, my friend. The foundation of this beautiful brewery goes back to 1873. Surprise! Right. The brewery was founded actually by two German immigrants, Adolf Coors and Jacob Schürler. The interesting thing is that, like, obviously they founded the brewery in Golden, Colorado, using the water coming from the Rocky Mountains, as it says. But the interesting thing that I found out is that they purchased the recipe for the original Coors from a Czech brewer for a Pilsner style.
That's right.
Which I thought was very interesting.
So many questions. Okay, so this Czech brewer was in Golden, Colorado. Was he working the mines? Was he there delivering beer to the people in the mines? What was he doing there? And was he just selling his wares? Was he walking around with a beer scroll with a recipe on it, just offering it up to people? What was going on? How did they know that he had this delicious beer recipe? How much did he sell it to them for? How did this transaction go down? Did it go down in a beer library?
It could be.
I have so many questions.
I have my take on this, because these two German immigrants, I imagine that at a certain point they arrived like in the surrounding of Colorado, and they said, there's not a decent beer here probably at this time, or at least one.
But they saw the beautiful water.
They saw the beautiful water, exactly. Any beer explorer would do. What could you possibly do at that point? Obviously, you found the brewery. But to your point, like, where is this Czech brewer coming into play, and why does he have like this scroll?
Yeah,
right.
Was he just wandering the countryside with a beer scroll? I just don't understand. He must have been part of the mining industry because that's what was going
Possibly.
on.
Possibly. Or maybe, my friend, and here's where the legend could come into play. Maybe he was a wizard that just appeared at the right time in the right place.
A traveling wizard.
Right. And he happened to have like in his bag is like, oh yeah, I have just exactly what you need. This is going to cost you 1 golden coin.
Did you ever see the movie Django Unchained?
Yes.
God, his name is escaping me. But, he's riding around in that cart with the big tooth on it because he was kind of like the dentist. That was the front. I could just picture this Czech in Golden, Colorado in the mining town just riding around this big beer cart just with like this big papier-mâché beer mug on the back of his buggy, just riding around selling beer, and they just bought his recipe off
exactly. him. I think we've reconstructed the origin here pretty well, my friend.
I think we painted a good enough picture of what happened. when this beer was founded. Obviously, they started brewing this beer down in Golden, and like the miners would partake in this delicious brew quite often, and they would drink it in these beer banquet halls. So I guess in these little mining towns, they basically had these banquet halls that were the pubs or the bars, and so it took on the nickname of the banquet beer.
Which is a beautiful thing, my friend, because imagine like working in a mine for very long hours, and then you get out of these like very dark, deep places, and you're tired.
And then you see that beer cart with the check man going by down the road, and you have to chase him. And obviously, it's very culturally relevant these days. It's become a pretty trendy, fashionable beer for people to drink. It's kind of like almost, and I'm not comparing it to Pabst because I don't think it's quite on that quality level, but it's almost become the new Pabst in a way where it's become the trendy beer, the trendy sort of accessible macro beer to drink. I've never tried this one. I've only tried the Canadian bootleg, like I said. I'm ready to go, man. I can't wait. I've never drank a beer out of a can bottle before. I want to try this. Let's do it.
Friend.
Let's see the sound, the beer sound when this gets... Oh. Oh. Some good snapping. Oh.
Very satisfying.
What does yours look like? When I open it up, there's just like foam. Just like a little dome of foam on the top of the bottle. Here we go. Ooh. This looks good. Hey, buddy, you know what the best part about a can bottle is?
What is that, my friend?
Between now and our Mouthfeel refresher, we could put the cap back on.
That's right. I didn't even think about that.
Keep it nice and fresh.
Ahead of the game, my friend.
I like this. I like this resealable beer bottle. All right, buddy. Aroma cheers.
Cheers.
What do you think?
Okay.
Wow.
I think there's three notes that I get: crackery, very light crackery, bready, malt. It's leaning towards the heavily processed malt, but it's not there. It's more refined. It's more clean, which is very nice. Light banana, candied banana, and then right after that, after these two kind of like fade a little bit,
wow, that's really strong.
You get this nice, lightly herbal hop presence. I find it actually very inviting. It's a little heavy on the banana, if I had to say.
It is, yeah.
I'm still drawn into the glass. So I think I'm going to start with the 1.5, my friend. I've always had this beer like directly out of a can. I never really had it in a glass. So this is the first experience. And I'm not, there's nothing offensive about it. It's middle of the road, I think.
A really, really strong, sweet banana aroma off it. Like I'm kind of taken aback a little bit by how sweet it smells. Like it's really strong. Also, just random observation. I don't know about yours, but my head, it looks like apple juice already. Like the head is completely
there's
died down.
Very little carbonation.
Yeah. Like you said, bordering on that sort of like processed malty sweetness. I think it's there, but it's there in a non-offensive way. Middle of the road, 1.5. There's nothing negative, but yeah, not great. All right, let's take a sip,
my friend.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really nice. I see the appeal of this beer. I definitely see the appeal of it. I understand why a lot of people like it.
Yeah.
That's a really unique
flavor.
It
is. And to your point, I think that it hits a lot of notes in a very interesting way. There's a little bit of everything, which is strange, and it's difficult to achieve, probably also having this balance. But you get a little bit of that malt, slightly crackery, very little, but leaning with this slight sweetness, and you have that banana hint at the very end. So it almost like takes you on a small little journey throughout, evolving a little bit. I wouldn't say that this is a beer that I would necessarily seek out, but I can definitely see how, if this is a choice between many other macro beers that are out there, this is definitely like a step above, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I can definitely see the appeal, just like you were saying. I think I'm going to stick with the 1.5.
I want to take a sip out of the can bottle because I want to see what this experience is.
That's a good idea, my friend. Let's do it. Let's try it.
I get it. The unfortunate thing about this beer for me is I don't think it's meant to be poured out.
I agree.
when you take a sip out of the bottle, and that's why there's only a few beers that I've ever wanted to make that comparison with when we're doing this review. This is one of them because when you pour it out, it goes kind of flat. But if you're drinking out of the bottle, I'm assuming it's the same thing drinking out of a can. It keeps a little bit of that carbonation. That's a mouthfeel. We'll get to that. But that plays into the taste too, because pouring it out, it's very sweet, very processed malty, banana-y. You mentioned like there's some crackeriness in there. There is. For me, just the main element is sweetness. It's not a turnoff. It's not like some other beers we've had where it comes off as overly processed to the point where I'm just like, nah, that's sweetness. It's not for me. Exactly what you said. If I was given the option of this over a whole slew of other macro lagers, I would choose this one. There's a really interesting flavor to it. 1.5. Yeah. So now, buddy, the mouthfeel. We got to do a little bit of a refresher here.
Exactly.
And that's a good thing that we have our cans.
Nice refresh.
That's kind of just the unfortunate things with these beers. Like if it maintained some kind of head.
Yeah.
And it had some kind of sharp carbonation to it, which it does. It like maybe on tap it does, but I can't imagine that it would. I mean, a draft version of the beer is not that far off from like the can or bottled version, right?
It shouldn't.
A lot of times there's noticeable differences, but it shouldn't be a completely different beer.
It shouldn't. I think you were onto this, like with your comment. It's not as carbonated as I would probably want it.
I don't even think it's as carbonated as Coors Light, and we'll find out. We are doing a VS battle, so we'll find out.
We'll find out.
I don't think it is.
But I do agree. It's almost like it needs this because of how sweet it is. It would almost need a little bit more. And I've never had it on tap, so I don't know. You have this sweetness that really coats your palate. If it had a little bit more of carbonation, it would cleanse your palate a little bit more, and it would be more enjoyable. Yeah. I'm gonna move down to a 1 because no longer middle of the road.
This is actually really disappointing because I really wanted to enjoy this beer. I really love the story with this beer, and I love that so many people whose opinions I trust told me that this is worth seeking out and trying. And I can see why. And again, going back to our previous statement, if you put this next to a whole bunch of other macro lagers that you can find in regular grocery stores, I would choose this and drink it straight out of the bottle, most likely, or straight out of the can. And there's some nice flavor to it. It's not like a tasteless light lager. Doesn't taste too processed. I get it. But the body of the beer, the mouthfeel is really disappointing. I wish it wasn't, but it's just so flat. And it's too sweet. It's too sweet to be flat.
I agree.
I'm going to go with 0.5. I think it really brings it down. When you pour it out, again, drinking out of the bottle, there was some more oomph to it. But all right, buddy, finish. What do you think?
Considering the fact that there's so much aroma and so much taste to this beer, like I think the finish is a little bit more muted. And I think it's by design because it is meant to be drinkable. Don't get fatigued by it, which is, I think it's a good thing, especially considering how it leans way more on the sweetness compared to other beers, right? Because it's so sweet, I would almost have liked to see a little bit more of the hop presence to balance that out. It's okay to have the sweetness up front as long as there's something to balance it out a little bit in the back. I think that's where I'm going to go with the 0.5 because it's not really within my realm.
I'm kind of torn with this beer because, we've been scoring it pretty low, but I can appreciate that it's well done for what it is. It doesn't taste cheap.
It does not.
It's just what it is. I'm not appreciating, but it doesn't taste cheap. I don't think this is off in any way, if that makes sense. It's just not appealing to me. I'll go with a 1. So, buddy, now as an overall beer experience from beginning to end for Coors Banquet, what do you think?
So, my friend, this has been a very interesting experience because I think I've said this before on the channel, but dissecting a beer is always a little challenging because it requires you to think about just that one section. But at the same time, it also gives you a deeper appreciation for how certain things are done. Trying it today here with you and going through all the different categories has really shown how there's actually very good quality here in this beer. Thinking about how accessible it is and how it compares to a lot of other offerings, I think this absolutely deserves a 1.5. Middle of the road, well done. On tap, I'm assuming that it's even better.
if you're drinking this, drink it out of the bottle, drink it out of the can. Especially if you get those cool stubby glass bottles, those look awesome. And these are pretty cool too. I'm enjoying these pint can bottles.
Yep.
These are really cool. But I don't think it's meant to be poured out. And that leads me to believe that you would get the same kind of flat experience on tap too. Everybody let us know down below. I mean, I've traveled a lot in the States. I can't remember a time I've seen Banquet on tap. Obviously I know it is, but I don't know how popular or how prevalent it is. And it just doesn't hold up being poured out. I mean, look at it. It just doesn't. It's just flat. 1.5. I'll match you on that, buddy. I think that's fair. Yeah. For what it is, accessible, cheap macro lager. It's interesting because it has that sweetness, but it doesn't overkill it with the sweetness. So 1.5. So final score, everybody. We swapped 2 categories, but we had pretty much the exact same scores all the way through. And it comes out to a 2 on 5 in our rating system, which is a nice beer. And it is. It's a nice beer. Drink it straight out of the can, cold, chilled, straight out of the bottle. That's the way to go. Let us know down below what you think about Coors Banquet. I'm sure we're going to get some interesting comments on this one.
Oh, I know we will.
And click that beer bell, because what that's going to do is going to let you know when we're hanging out in the pub, so you can come back and hang out along with us next time we're having a beer.
Exactly. And no matter what you do, don't forget to close your beer brackets.
Never forget. Cheers, everybody. And if you see a Czech immigrant roaming the streets in a beer cart, ask him about his beer recipes. Maybe they're for sale.
You might have one. Give him a golden coin. He'll give you the recipe.
Actually, be weary of his recipes because they might be a little too sweet. You never know.
You never
be
know.
weary.